We are recording too. Welcome everyone. So before I go over to Jacqueline, just to remind everyone, we are here to talk about endometriosis, PCOS, hormones, but under the umbrella of yoga. So under the umbrella of movement practices, stillness practices, breathing practices, relaxation, all the physical and emotional practices that are connected to yoga, and also, you know, weaving in the wider context of what yoga is and what yoga feels like for all of us. And when we look at this, it's very much from creating a sense of agency. So the people who are in the space with us now, you're yoga teachers. You've trained in yoga, or I know that I've just noticed there's a few other people who've trained in other modalities that are very much connected to menstrual health. So that may be you as well. Yes. And you're very welcome if that's you too. So we're very unprescriptive here. So we don't tell you what to do, but we'll have, you know, you'll have skill sets that you know of that you will be able to utilize in that context. I'm going to start by passing you over to Jacqueline, because we're going to look at kind of the what is endometriosis, what is PCOS, and then we're going to kind of have a framework for this discussion this morning. So I'm just going to I'm going to spotlight. Where are you? There you go. Add spotlight. There you go. Jacqueline is here. So I'm going to pass you over to Jacqueline so you can hear from her now.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Julie. I'm happy to be here again. So I'm just going to give you a little introduction as to who I am, and then we'll get straight into it. So I am Jacqueline. I am a married mama of 5 kids. I am 46 years old, and I am a yoga teacher for women's health. I'm trained in 3 areas of yoga. I started off my journey as a yoga teacher for pregnancy and birth. I then progressed to being a yoga for women's health teacher, and I've also done therapeutic yoga, using yoga as a therapeutic tool. My focus as a yoga teacher is looking at the woman as she arrives to my class, as she arrives on the mat. The woman is the center, her health journey and who she is as she arrives, her physical, emotional, spiritual being as she arrives on any given day. That is who I am talking to, engaging with, supporting. The yoga for me is the tool to help the woman navigate whatever it is that she is dealing with on any given day. So that's sort of my perspective. That's where I'm coming from. And for me, the woman, her health journey, her story, her hormonal cycle, and we're going to talk about hormones a lot today. That really is sort of how I'm engaging with her, giving her the space for what she needs, for what her intention is today as she arrives on the mat. And really using the modality of yoga for women's health, which is a unique modality that I've been trained in. I am, as you can hear, I'm originally English, but I live in Israel now, and I've been trained here with the founder of this unique modality. And that's sort of where my background and how my yoga language is infused with that, sort of from that perspective, really the women's health and the women-centric perspective.
Thank you. So, Jacqueline, it will be lovely to. We've already got questions. Well, we've already got kind of focus ideas that are coming through. So, there's somebody who's just said that they're a somatic yoga teacher looking to start a group for women who are going through IVF, and many have endometriosis or PCOS. That is absolutely a commonality that I think many of us come across who teach this area. That when we teach yoga for fertility, endometriosis and PCOS come up really regularly. So maybe we can start by having a little bit more of an understanding of what PCOS is and what endometriosis is, and then maybe kind of go into a little bit more about the people we might come across in our classes who are experiencing those challenges.
Okay, So, what is it? Okay, so just before we went live, Julia and I were having a quick chat, and this really is what I think. And feel free to agree or disagree, but with my years of being in this women's health field and really focusing on the body, mind, physical, emotional connection, and using yoga as that tool to deepen that connection, to create awareness of what is going on in your body, to understand how your body works. This is really what I now believe for myself. And I'd love to know, all the participants here, what you think about this. Women's health has been, from a medical perspective, from conventional Western medical perspective, women's health issues are really seen as a, we need to fix you, or just sort of manage and just sort of get on and just sort of, you know, you can survive, you know, unless there is a real medical challenge, like, for example, you want to get pregnant, you can live with whatever it is you're suffering from, whatever it is that you're experiencing. So you've got PCOS, you've got endometriosis, you're suffering from infertility, you don't have regular periods. It's okay. We'll give you a pill. We'll give you some quick fix to help you navigate until a time when you need to focus on that challenge because you want to get pregnant, or it's impacting your health in other areas. But the fact that a woman with endometriosis is really struggling and really suffering, and it impacts her physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, that, you know, women with endometriosis who are really struggling, they often cannot get out of bed. They leave their workplace. It can destroy family relationships. But that is not ever seen as the challenge. It's, you have a biological medical condition, and if you're, you sort of just get on with it, type of thing. Or you are given a medical treatment, which may or may not help you. PCOS is a little bit different. It's a little bit more subtle, because I think with PCOS, often there isn't the level of pain and struggle involved. PCOS, you may have irregular periods, you may have acne, you may have weight gain. But again, all of those are seen for women as within the realm of, you can survive, they're manageable, you just deal with it. So you're a bit overweight, okay, fine. Like, it's not really taken as a real serious challenge. So I think there is an element of not being taken seriously by the doctors, by conventional Western medicine, unless there is a reason why you demand from your, doctor that you want it to be taken seriously. For example, you want to get pregnant. And the other thing is that I think I've really discovered in my work over the last couple of years is the centrality of hormones and relating to women's health issues from a hormonal perspective. Many of our women's health challenges are because of hormonal imbalance, and that is absolutely true for endometriosis, absolutely true for PCOS, absolutely true for other infertility issues. There are ways to treat that, for example, through nutrition, the symbiotic relationship of lifestyle, holistic approach, nutrition, stress, which all obviously is healed with, yoga practice, but or engaged with through yoga practice. But those issues really start again from hormones, adrenal issues, thyroid issues. A lot of the women's health challenges that we experience, the source of them is hormonal imbalance. And then when we go to our Western conventional medicine practitioner, they often, that really complex of trying to create hormonal balance is really not discussed. It's really not, we know that these conditions are hormonal imbalance conditions, but the source of the of the health issue, the hormonal imbalance, is never really dealt with. We're often looking at the symptoms. You're suffering from pelvic pain. You're suffering from infertility. You're experiencing, you can't get out of bed because you're quite depressed because of what you're going through. So we'll give you antidepressants. We're treating a lot of the time the symptoms rather than the root cause. And the more that I am involved with women's health, the more I am discovering that the root cause of many of our health challenges is hormonal imbalance.
So that is that's a kind of a heartfelt plea, I guess, or a heartfelt talk about that. And so it is true that there is often a plaster approach to modern medicine, or an ignoring. So that may be what people come across as like being ignored, or the plaster approach. So when we look at these challenges, well, I mean, I've got ideas of where I might start. I'm a huge fan of menstrual cycle awareness, of noticing, of seeing where we are from day to day. But I'd love to know, where might your starting point be from a yoga perspective, Jacqueline?
Yeah, so really, based on my training and my teaching in this world of yoga for women's health, my starting position is giving the woman the space to breathe. You come, you lie on the mat, and you just start breathing. And as yoga teachers, we know that probably 90% of our students, if they're new students, if they haven't been exposed to this before, they don't know how to breathe properly. If you speak to any of your friends or family who are not trained in yoga, they don't know how to breathe properly. Breath is really the first place that I start, especially for women, because women, we carry so much with us. We usually are multitaskers. Whether you have children or not, whether you are married or not, whether you are looking after a family, your own family, or parents, or a wider family, women, by definition, by our natural innate beings, we are multitaskers in whichever way that shows up, and we very rarely give ourselves time and space. It's become, a whole area of health coaching, self-love, and focusing on yourself. But really, it starts with being on the mat and breathing, and allowing yourself the space to connect with yourself. And the minute you get on that mat, and the minute you start breathing, and the minute, I feel it as a yoga teacher and as a yoga student, and I'm sure everyone listening here, when you lie on that mat and you start breathing, you feel it within the first minute. You feel it in your body. Your muscles start to relax. Everything starts to give way. As you start to breathe, as you get that deep breathing happening, as you're really deep breathing into your lungs and your diaphragm starts moving, biological things start to change in your body. And that biology then starts to impact, your emotions, your mental state. And you have the space to start listening to what is really going on in your body. And I think the biggest thing that we as women don't do is listen to our body. What is our body really telling us? What does our body really need? What feels right? What hurts? What doesn't hurt? What part of my body is calling me? What part of my body do I not pay attention to? Because maybe there's nothing wrong with it, and so I don't pay attention to it. But maybe I want to bring my attention to a part of my body that, especially for women who are struggling with endometriosis or PCOS, they're so focused on a certain part of their body, their uterus, their womb, their reproductive area. Is it working? Is it not working? How is it working? What's going on? They ignore other parts of their body that needs attention. So for me, that is my first point where I start engaging with my, with myself and with the women that I'm supporting.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said with myself and with the women that I'm supporting, because one of the things that I've noticed is there's a huge amount out there around trauma at the moment. And we have Annetta who jumps into the yoga teachers forum regularly to talk about that. But what I noticed in my work is that we are holding space for enormous challenges when we step in to do this work. So it is very common that we will be working with people who have experienced loss, like miscarriage. We're likely that we're going to be looking after people who are experiencing physical pain and they're not quite sure why, and they're being dismissed. Or we're looking after people who have a kind of undercurrent of, am I ever going to be able to, if I ever want to, choose to have children. These are really, really big things. And this is without, it's interesting, I find, that people kind of talk about trauma in terms of having been attacked or like those kind of things. But what we're doing in this work is we're holding space for people who have got really big things going on. And because of the way that we work, so many of us work within our own communities, we may even know the people quite well that we're holding space for, which adds another layer. So I remember doing this work for a lot of years before anybody talked to me about my own self-care and how to hold space for others. And we're looking at these issues, endometriosis and PCOS, but we're also looking at, the people who are here are people who are here to care for others. Often people will be choosing to come in this space because it's their own personal experience. So there may well be people here who have experience of endometriosis, have experience of PCOS, and that can add another layer, yet another layer. But I'd love to know, because you do this work, what do you put in place to support yourself? And is that often kind of the place where you might choose to start, for example?
Yeah.
I know that's a lot to say.
Yeah, no, so I think something that you've really touched on, which is a really central part of, I think, general yoga practice, but specifically for yoga for women's health, is you are not your health challenge. To create a disconnect between you and who you as your own authentic self is, and you as a, I don't like the word sufferer, but I'm going to use it for the moment, but I'm using it very carefully. I don't love the word sufferer, but as a sufferer of endometriosis. Where do you begin or end, and where does your health challenge begin and end? And often, especially for women who are really struggling with endometriosis or PCOS, regardless of whether you want to get pregnant or not, because getting pregnant is a different piece of the puzzle, because you can really suffer with endometriosis PCOS, and it can be a serious life challenge regardless of wanting to get pregnant. So I just want to acknowledge that it's not just about the fertility issue. It is a health issue in and of itself. But often you become so much your health challenge. You become so much your disease. And I think we need to make space. Again, if we have personal stories of this, or if our students have personal stories of this, make space for you to be you, regardless of or disconnected from the thing that you're experiencing. And I think that applies to all trauma. And I think that's something that yoga can really bring to the healing journey, is that you create the space through deep breathing, through getting empowered, of having yoga tools, yoga poses that can help you, through getting empowered and learning who am I, remembering who you are, or reconnecting with who you are, or redefining who you are. And I think yoga really gives us those tools. So yeah, I think that's a very important discussion to include.
And so, as far as looking after yourself while you're looking after others, Is it through the yoga practice? Do you have, like, I know that you work within your world, you've got a very close connection to your community of teachers and your mentor and your teacher.
Yeah.
Do you find that that is something that supports you in the work that you do?
So I'll tell you, getting into my personal story as a mother of 5 kids and a very busy working mother of 5 kids, I have adopted the mantra. Well, let's say when I lived in my 30s, and I think I was very typical of so many of us, we live with the juggle. If you need something done, ask a busy person. And all of us as women experience that. And that's what I talked about before, that multitasking. We're all running, doing. The more busy you are, the more you can prove your worth, the more, you know, and that's just sort of the space that we live. And when I started on my yoga journey, to, you know, my professional yoga journey, I was practicing yoga before for, you know, off and on for years. It was with the intention that I wanted to create my own work-life balance. I wanted to be the master of the way that I design my life, because I realized I needed time and space for myself. I show up better as a wife, as a mother, as an entrepreneur, as a friend, as a, you know, in all those different roles, when I am able to give to myself first. And doing that has become a priority for me. And we can talk about what's happened over the last 14 months in everyone's lives as, you know, things have been turned up on its head. But I think for women and for busy multitasking women, you do need to put yourself first so that you can fill up your own cup, so that you have what to give to all those other people, because people are relying on us. We like that. Sometimes it's a bit stressful, but especially as yoga teachers, our clients are relying on us. Our, you know, people, we are giving something over to our students that they're often their mental, physical, emotional health depends on how we show up. So and often yoga teachers, because of the way that the yoga profession is, yoga teachers work numerous hours and are teaching numerous classes a day, and you can't show up the way that you need to show up if you don't give to yourself first. So I have very intentionally created the lifestyle that serves me so that I can show up. And for me, it starts with giving myself time and space. And I've learned over the last 14 months, I need that more than anything. So that's just from a very personal standpoint.
Yeah, I actually find that that's really important, because the people, you know, who've chosen to be here, I just said my internet was unstable, so hopefully you can still hear me. But the people who've chosen to be here, we're all choosing to hold space for others, and I kind of feel that that is a good place to start. Space for people who are experiencing the huge challenges that endometriosis and PCOS can be, where we with ourselves, because we're going to come unstuck if, you know, I was kind of talking about, well, where does yoga come in? Muladhara chakra, that root chakra, that groundedness, that being there for ourselves. That's a really important thing. And I know when people come to these 1 hour sessions, they're like, well, I'd like to get something out of this 1 hour. And I think, you know, for me, that's something that is really important to come out of this 1 hour, is that have we given ourselves the time and space to look at our own schedules and our own lives and our own practice, and have we got that grounding for ourselves? And then once we know that that is in place for ourselves, you know, financial security, space to breathe, and these are not things that are a given at all, especially right now, but that may be what we feel that we would need to have in order to be in a space where we can hold space for others. It's very different to the space that we kind of have to hold. Like we might have to hold our elderly parent, or we might have to hold our child, but it's a choice to be in this world and hold
people
who are experiencing endometriosis and PCOS.
So yeah, I agree with you.
You know.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. How many of us either ourselves or know yoga teachers that have got injured through their intense practice because they're not making enough time and space for themselves? So I agree with you 100%, Julia. And especially if we need to show up and hold space for people who are struggling, we need, you know, I agree with every word that you said. So yeah.
Great. So from that, so hopefully, you know, we've kind of sort of made that clear how important it is for us to hold ourselves. And then from there, you mentioned the breath as a place to start. So I'd like maybe to talk about the way it might work if you were working one-to-one with somebody,
yeah,
and how that might differ from support from a group structure, because a one-to-one can be amazingly supportive, or a one-to-two. Sometimes it can be really nice for partners to be. How it might look to because somebody's mentioned that they're looking to create a group that's very specific to these challenges. So how might that differ, that one-to-one, which some people are calling yoga therapy, to a group where there's sort of more people together?
So I do want to get, I'm going to answer that. I just want to say that to get very practical, because I know that everyone here is a yoga teacher more or less, or, you know, a therapist supporting women. For me, yoga is the tool to help women navigate whatever it is that they're going through. And as we've said, especially for these endometriosis and PCOS conditions, that is physical, emotional, and mental health. So when you're dealing with a one-to-one client, you can really target the yoga practice for what it is that they are specifically experiencing. So we all know we're dealing with women who have this medical condition. So we know that we need to adapt the yoga practice to use the poses, or to use the sequencing, or however you structure your yoga class, to relieve the biological medical conditions that they are showing up with. However, every woman that you work with is going to be having an emotional element to her journey, and a mental health element to her journey. So when you're working on one-to-one, you can really target what is it that she is experiencing today. And we're only talking about today, when she arrives on the mat today. What is it that she's experiencing? And when you're in a group, you sort of make it a little bit more general. But I would really encourage everyone, and I'm sure everyone here is doing it already, is to not just relate to the using yoga to help heal or to help treat the biological condition, but we also need to remember that there is other elements that the woman is bringing to the mat. And again, it's just about whether you're going to be very specific, giving the woman in front of you the space, the tools, the language that she needs to help navigate, you know, the hour and a half that she's with you, or whether you're doing it slightly more on a group level. I like very practically to give topics to my classes, to my sessions. So today, especially, and it works very well when you're in a group, today's topic is going to be X, you know, whatever it is. So that sort of helps to create a connection with the women in front of you if you're doing it in a group, to really pick a topic. You can maybe do a reading on it. You can maybe do an inspirational quote on it. You can help to ground the group and ground the session around the topic. And it also helps you to plan the sessions out better. You know, if you're doing a group program, or you've got a group series, a 4-week, an 8-week, whatever it is, it helps to plan it out when you choose the topics, and you can ground the sessions in a topic. But when you're really talking to the woman with one-on-one, I'm much more led by what she is bringing, you know, to the mat on that given day.
So you mentioned themes. You've made me kind of think, oh, I had poetry popping into my head, and like all the themes that I love to use in my classes. But so let's say that we have a class, and we're using the terminology women, and because Jacqueline's trained in yoga for women's health, we are aware that there are non-binary people who don't identify as being a woman who have these challenges. I think the most or all, I don't know, of the people that Jacqueline supports are women and identify as cis women. So that's why that language is being used. But the techniques that we are sharing here and what we're talking about today is also very valid for people who are non-binary but have a woman's physiology.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
to bring that to the fore. But because he talked about themes, maybe I don't know whether I'm putting you on the spot, but maybe you can think, oh, yesterday my theme was, but how might you do that? How might you pick a theme? And let's say there are 3 or 4 people in the room who have experience of endometriosis. What would that theme bring to them?
Okay. So so let's get specific. Let's talk about a woman who is a group of women who are experiencing endometriosis. And we know that, again, every woman's endometriosis journey is different. And there are women who navigate it okay, but there are women who really struggle and experience pain. So, however, every woman with endometriosis, I think, again, I haven't researched every single woman, but I think there is a common theme of feeling really disconnected from yourself, disconnected with your true self. Your body is betraying you. And there is an element of, is it my fault? The guilt, why is my body betraying me? I don't like my body, that whole sort of connection to self. So I would, let's say, choose that as a theme, honoring my body, respecting my body, loving my body, because so many women who experience this feel that disconnect. I don't want this body anymore. So I would, for example, pick that as a theme. I would use an inspirational quote, a poem, a reading to sort of introduce that theme. And then throughout the yoga practice, either I would choose asanas that were very connected to self, very grounding, use movement and flow that allowed me potentially to express myself, to connect to myself. Find ways that you can use the yoga practice to connect to the theme that you want the woman at the end of, that you set the intention for. And at the end of the session, that there is, the woman really has gone on her own mini journey, and it's obviously, it's not going to be a transformation in an hour and a half. If they're in a group program, it's going to be a journey, but using the theme translated through the reading, the connection that you want to give, the language that you want to give, implemented by the poses, the asanas that you choose to take the woman on that journey. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. And we've kind of picked 2 issues. I know that we're going to go in depth with 2 hours of what they do in the CPD, like we're going to delve deep into those. But do you find that often you could kind of share a space for both of those things, that they come together, that and maybe even looking a little bit more into PCOS, because there's such a range with that. It's like, I was talking to you again often, but like if you looked at a picture of a teen reproductive system, it would look as if the vast majority of teens have PCOS, because many experience pain with their first few periods, many miss periods. Like there's kind of like they have spot, like there's weight gains, like all the pathologies that are associated with PCOS are associated with just being a teenager. So it's hard to disconnect, and it's almost like there's a beautiful book called A Blessing Not a Curse. There's still very much in the mindset of the Western world that bleeding in and of itself is a pathology, which I promise you guys it isn't. So it's like, how do we almost like separate the wool from the chaff? How do we get to a place where the normal challenges that we face in life and with our bodies can be accepted and actually seen as a gift? And many of us who come to this work because our menstrual cycle has not felt like a gift when it was first gifted to us, and for many of the first years of our menstruating years, it did not feel like a gift, and there was nothing out there that would suggest that it could be a gift, apart from maybe somebody in an advertisement for menstrual products riding a horse wearing white. So it's like, how can we be there as yoga teachers for people to make friends with a cycle that is doing all of those things that might cause them A is often ignore my body, ignore the bad things, take painkillers and hope that everything goes away, and B is, this has got so bad that I need somebody to put a plaster on this. And I guess what we're here for, or what, like, this is how I see it anyway, and I don't know if you do, like, we're here to like be that space where we're neither hiding away nor desperate, because we're kind of gifting people a way of being with some of the challenges that can come up for us as humans.
So I will tell you that PCOS is more of a personal story for me than endometriosis. I experienced PCOS when I was younger. I have been blessed with 5 children, so it wasn't a major, 2 of those children were blessed to us with some help, but really it wasn't anything that limited me, except that I had a 36-day cycle. That was my natural cycle, a 36-day cycle. And when I was younger, obviously it was slightly more challenging, but for me personally, it didn't limit me in any way. I have my eldest daughter now, who I have gifted her the blessing of PCOS. So I'm now dealing with the PCOS journey from my child's perspective also. I want to say 2 things. With respect to being a mother of a daughter who has PCOS, or being a supporter, in whatever role we play of people who have PCOS. My daughter is in the unfortunate situation that she has a mother who will not let the doctor prescribe her the pill. My daughter is in, she's in, I'm trying to think of the correct word. She's in medical follow-up. So she sees an endocrinologist regularly. The endocrinologist would be super happy to give her the pill. But my daughter's mother does not let her have the pill because I know better. So on that hand, it's sort of, when you know better, you do better. Who said that? Maya Angelou said something along that lines, when you know better, you do better. And I know better now, so I won't allow, at the moment, at the stage that my daughter is, she's only 18, I know there are other ways that if she, she's an 18-year-old, so she knows it all, but it's difficult for her to implement the lifestyle changes that she needs to implement that would be the starting point that would help her manage her PCOS better. The other thing that I wanted to say is related to really embracing our bodies and ourselves and the cycles that we live through. Is I know that you feel very much the same way, and one of the first blogs that I wrote was proud to be a hormonal woman, basically embracing everything that makes us feminine. And I think that for many years, for very real and significant and legitimate reasons, womanhood, because of the feminist movement and because of our absolute need to strive and to achieve and to reach heights that were unavailable to us, we had to deny our femininity in a way, deny our connection to self, which is, part of the story of the pill. Why was the pill, what was the origins of the pill? It was so that the woman could be in control, ironically, of her cycle, so that she wouldn't be limited by childbirth, so that she could go and be the CEO and break the glass ceiling. And so it's the irony of the feminist movement that as the pendulum has swung, we are now in a situation where womanhood in society is actually, we have denied our femininity. We have disconnected, or whatever the opposite of embrace is, we have, really disconnected from what makes us authentically feminine. And again, I won't use the word woman here, but I will use the word feminine, because the femininity element of cycles, of hormones, of everything that involves, is something that we need to reclaim for ourselves. And I know that you have a course with the Yoga Teachers Forum about talking to teens and body image and teens, and really educating teens about embracing their femininity and their cycles. And as a mother of 3 teenage girls, we talk about it a lot. I think men have to be involved in the conversation. It's becoming more and more that women's issues is not only a women's issue. Men need to be engaged in these conversations also. When we talk about femininity or women's cycles in the workplace, the people that women engage with, we need to have more conversations about the fact that if I am menstruating, if I'm on my bleed and I have a really important presentation at work, how do I navigate that? What does that mean for me as a woman? What does that mean for my workspace? What does that mean? So, I would like us to embrace this new conversation of, the feminist movement and what it means to really be authentically feminine. And I think that relates to what we're sort of talking about now, about really peeling away the layers of the shame, the guilt, the embarrassment, because that is sort of the backlash to needing to be the woman that was going to be out there and be just like men, to be able to achieve all that the feminist movement has allowed women to achieve. It's sort of like the flip side or the downside of it.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there might be people bristling.
I know, and I know it's an uncomfortable topic.
But you know what? This is a space where what I love about yoga and what I love about what we do at the Yoga Teachers Forum is that there's a space for everyone. And if you don't agree with that perspective, you don't need to. There are spaces for everybody to be in the practice that they would like to be in. But where that, I totally get where that is coming from, because we do have menstrual cycles. And they are a natural part of who we are, and there is still it's really interesting as parents of teen girls, that the level of embarrassment connected to the menstrual cycle and period, that you can't, even today you can't sit at the dinner table, or it's not easy to sit at the dinner table and talk about periods, even though they happen every month or every 36 days or whatever it is, if you experience menstrual challenges. But that's something that 52% of the UK population could be experiencing throughout their lives. The beginning point and the end point, the menarche and the menopause, there is a massive, we are going to be talking, we are talking very specifically about 2 pathologies. We're talking about endometriosis and PCOS, but the conversation is broader than that. The fact that there is a massive level of fear around, I guess, in the middle years, there's a fear around fertility, and as you come to perimenopause, that massive fear of change, a natural change that will occur. So what I guess our intention in being here and doing this is that we are connected to nature. We live in worlds which, if we live in the where I do in the UK, and I think where you live as well, there's a little bit more of a contrast between winter and summer, and less of a spring and an autumn. But the idea of the phases of the cycle, we all are driven by the moon. I mean, actually, if you where I live in the UK, the external seasons of nature are very much could connect to the menstrual cycle. So it's really helpful to have the seasons there, because we have like a really vibrant and vivid and visual spring, and the same with autumn. Our seasons are very delineated. I know that where you live, they're less delineated.
Yeah, we have a month of spring and a month of autumn, and that's it.
And a huge summer, which is, that's interesting to see as well. But often the lunar cycle is really helpful, and I find it fascinating that the Muslim religion and the Jewish religion, I'm not sure what other religions do this, but definitely Muslim and the Jewish religions, they put a huge amount of importance on the moon, and they celebrate the new moon. And that is a celebration of the cycle, and which being connects to that in an archetype. So the archetype is the 28-day cycle. And honoring that is a real, when we look at the challenges, I think it can be really helpful to look at the archetypes as well, because that's what's supposed to be normal.
So I actually want to connect that to what we don't talk about is a woman's life cycle, the life cycle of change, because as we've talked about, and as I talked about in the hormones workshop I did, and I'll do it again when we have the hormones workshop again in June, that there are clear life cycle stages in a woman's journey, and the endometriosis PCOS discussion really centers around a certain part of the life cycle. But because you mentioned menopause, I want to relate those to menopause, because menopause is an area that I deal with specifically with my clients, and how you experience menopause is often impacted by what happened in the 20 or so years before you arrive at perimenopause. And I think it's a great way to connect to this life cycle, hormonal cycle that women go through, because menopause or perimenopause doesn't just happen in a vacuum. The way that you experience your perimenopause and menopause journey really is impacted by your physical, emotional, mental health journey that happened in the years leading up to it. And because menopause journey is a hormonally natural depleting experience, it is a natural hormonal fluctuating time. If you arrive at perimenopause already hormonally depleted, if you arrive at perimenopause already hormonally imbalanced, you don't have the resources to navigate the next life cycle phase with as much ability as if you arrived hormonally balanced, healthy, well, with strategies in place to help you navigate different things that you experience. So, and also the fact that maybe if you have experienced PCOS or endometriosis and fertility was an issue for you and was a struggle, and you wanted to have kids or you weren't able to, or the fertility discussion and the infertility challenges appeared for you, you arrive at perimenopause and menopause with now the knowledge that that's it, you're done, whether you like it or not. And I know that for many women who were blessed to have children, that finality of their fertility years is an emotional journey, and they were able to have kids, and it was their choice to finish having children. So really, I really see a woman's life through these hormonal cycles, through these life cycle phases, because one impacts the other. And the way that you experience one is going to impact how you experience the other. And for me, yoga practice is that glue, is that sort of, that support that binds everything together. It's your Mula Bandha. It's that root chakra that really binds everything together to allow you to navigate all these things that we experience throughout our life cycle and hormonal cycle.
That is absolutely beautiful. I'm aware of, I'm going to talk to that in one moment. I'm just aware of the time. It's coming up to 10:25-ish. If you have specific questions that you would like to be addressed now, it's like now or never.
Now is the time.
So I'm going to give a little bit of space for questions to arrive if they would like to. And while we're giving people space for that, and I'll have a little look through who we've got here as well. What Jacqueline's just spoken to is something that is kind of hopefully becoming clear from the offerings that we have within the Yoga Teachers Forum. So starting with Manak, and we're going to be having talks coming up in the next week or so, which connect to all of these. So I'm looking very much at the tween journey. There's kind of the 9 to 11 age group. There's a real reason why that 9 to 11 age group is, or 9 to 12 age group is chosen, because there is if anybody has teenagers, you know that there's like a change that occurs where they're moved from being very focused on their parents and on those around them to support them to a place of autonomy. And while children are in a place of where they're looking elsewhere for their support, that's a beautiful place to teach them body literacy. And the way that Eleanor does that is through art and questions and movement. It's a very, very beautiful, creative process. So if that's something that really interests you, because if we get body literacy from the age of 9 to 11, then any challenges that we face beyond there, we've got, like Jacqueline just said, we've got our Mula Bandha, we've got our roots. And many of us didn't have those roots. We kind of had to create those roots in our 30s or beyond. How wonderful to create those roots at the age of 9. So if you feel drawn to that, do come to Eleanor's free talk. And also she's got it's a 5-week training. I can't tell you how much content there is there. I've uploaded all about it. There's so much content there. And then kind of we move into the middle years. And in the middle years, that's where a lot of what Jacqueline is creating with the Teachers Forum comes in. So we've got the this month we've got the endometriosis session.
Yeah, we've got
really on for anybody who's interested in.
Yeah, on Sunday the 18th. Yeah, Sunday the 18th of April is the endometriosis workshop, and really we'll be taking a deep dive into what is endometriosis, how does it show up, the different ways that are recommended for treating it, and for us as yoga teachers, really going into a proper yoga practice that can be used to support women with endometriosis.
And if you can make that live, great, because then you get to ask your questions and be involved in the process. But if you can't make it live, then we record it for those people who choose to be in that space. And then going on from that, in May, Jacqueline, you've got the PCOS workshop. Yes,
Wednesday, May the 12th, we have the PCOS workshop, which will be similar in structure to the endometriosis workshop, but focusing on PCOS. So again, looking at it, what is it, understanding the conventional wisdoms behind it, and then really looking at the alternative ways to really give language to PCOS. And again, yoga practice, a good yoga session of how to use yoga to support women with PCOS.
And then in June, Jacqueline's back again.
Yay!
This is like I guess it's the frame you hang it on, basically, isn't it, Jacqueline?
Yeah, it's the hormones. So last month we did the hormone workshop, and Julia has very, very graciously invited me back to do it again. we look at really the whole hormonal cycle of a woman. We look at the hormones. Hormones is becoming one of my most favorite topics to talk about. The feminine hormones, the hormones that impact us throughout our life cycle, looking at insulin, cortisol, the relationship between the estrogen, progesterone, and all those other things, as I talked about earlier, at the different life cycle stages of a woman. And again, how to create hormonal balance using yoga practice, depending on, at what stage of life you're at. What does yoga practice for perimenopausal women look like versus yoga practice for women who are struggling, for example, with infertility, or women who are pregnant, or, so we cover that whole big discussion in the workshop in June.
Yeah, so the kind of the quality of what is there is very kind of content, and there's a lot of knowledge there, but there's also practice. And then also we've got an ongoing menstrual cycle therapeutics, which is very much a walkthrough in a kind of empowering yourself to be there and hold space, and what practices if you don't practice menstrual cycle awareness, or you're interested in menstrual cycle awareness, that's a very much an overview. We don't go into so much detail with all the detail of the knowledge, but it's a really lovely, spacious 4-week walkthrough the spring, summer, autumn, and winter of the menstrual cycle. And later on, I think it's next week, we've got a talk going into more detail into perimenopause with Jane Dancy and I. You might have met Jane. We talk about it all the time. So we've got a very spacious 6-week course coming up, and there's a real reason why you might see some trainings in yoga which are very time heavy. So you might start at 9:30 in the morning and finish at 5:30, and you've got hours and hours of Zoom content. And what we intend to do with the trainings that we have here, and Jacqueline's is a case in point, is that you've got kind of, in the endometriosis 2 hours, you've got that solid time there with Jacqueline, but then you've got that content to ruminate over, to think about, to be with, to relate to your own practice. That's one of the reasons why we record this session as well, because we'd like this, rather than being a kind of a crash of our nervous system, because we're thinking, I've got to absorb so much knowledge and I've got to know this now, and how to, we would like it to relate to our need as people who hold space to others, to hold space for ourselves. So we feel that 2 or maybe 3 hours is a manageable space of time for us to be in this space, and then breathe. So maybe, those of you who've joined us today, you can know what we've talked about today. You can have a breathe, and then when you open your mailbox in a few hours time, you'll see this talk again. You'll be like, okay, so I absorbed some of it in their conversation, but actually I'd like to go to that little bit 20 minutes in where Jacqueline talked about X. And we're also here to kind of answer questions and be here outside of the framework within reason as well. And also another reminder that hopefully our shorter events are very affordable, but we do offer financial hardship discounts for people who can't afford. And a lot of our events, we've already supported charities like the Lullaby Trust, Bloody Good Period, Binti International. Hopefully our belief in supporting Women's Aid, Stonewall, there's lots of different charities that we've been supporting that hopefully reflect that need that we have globally to support people who have all sorts of challenges. We're due to, people have kind of said lovely things about what is needed. So yoga is the base, self-care, supporting people who are going through fertility issues, general kind of wanting to support people who are in their midlife, so prenatal, postnatal. We have a whole raft of areas that we look. So that kind of seems to be the, what I'm seeing in the chat is that's the people who are supporting. There haven't been any other specific questions. There might be in the Facebook group. But I'd like to kind of close the session today, Jacqueline, by first of all thanking you, and second of all, asking people where can we find your workshops, and just a little reminder of when they are and all of that.
Amazing. So the 3 workshops that I'm doing with the Yoga Teachers Forum, as I said, the endometriosis on Sunday the 18th, the PCOS on Wednesday, May the 12th, and the hormones on Sunday the 13th of June. All of those appear on your website, on the Yoga Teachers Forum website. If you want to follow up with me personally, you can email me at theyogaroom120. That's theyogaroom120@gmail.com. If you have a question about what we talked about today, you can for sure email me. But we will be doing a deep dive into endometriosis, PCOS, and hormones at each of the workshops that are going to be happening in April, May, and June. And if there are other questions or other areas that you think you want a deeper dive into, then just reach out to Julia. And if anything in this conversation came up for you as like, yeah, I'd really like to go deeper into one of the things that you talked about, I'm sure Julia will find a way to make it happen, because she's just that kind of person.
That's right. So it's yogateachersforum.org, which is where all our events are listed. And thank you, Jacqueline, for saying that, because I love the area of expertise that Jacqueline works within. I also love my perimenopause club, my pre and postnatal, all the people who kind of work in and around these areas. And absolutely, the intention is to address the challenges. That is how we came to create the 2 workshops looking specifically at endometriosis and PCOS. It came out of the conversations we had around menstrual cycle awareness and the menstrual cycle therapeutics course, which do touch upon those things. So if you have areas that are of really, really specific interest to you, fertility is one that Jacqueline and I are also discussing, the whole idea of fertility or infertility. That could well be a focus area, but do let us know. We are intending with these 1-hour sessions to have content in the 1-hour sessions that you can take away with you and utilize. And then the difference with the workshops is that it's a contained space. It's been very specifically prepared with content that can support you, and there's more of an opportunity in those sessions. And what we're aiming to do as well with some of them, I don't know whether I've mentioned this to Jacqueline, but what we're looking to do is we'll have the sessions, especially when they're shorter sessions. Some of the trainings that we do are 1.5 hours or 2 hours. There can be space outside of that, so maybe for 20 minutes to 30 minutes after the content has been done, for you to kind of go, well, actually, I've got a question about this, or can we talk a little bit about that, to give you more of a space to get to know the other people who are doing this training, so we can get to know each other a little bit better, and so that you've got space also to think into what you might need to support you as teachers going forward. So thank you, Jacqueline, for your time today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone, for participating. I'm looking forward to seeing you all the next few months at the workshops.
I've got a load of lovely messages. Thank you, everyone, for your lovely messages. I'm going to stop the recording.